It was supposed to be a regular Thursday. I remember checking my phone. 9:47 a.m. I was already late for the meeting on the 14th floor of the building where our company had just moved. Everything about the new office tower screamed modern. Glass panels, quiet hallways, even a lobby that smelled like lavender and steel. But the elevator, something about it always felt off. There were 4 of them lined up in the lobby, but only one ever seemed to work. The far left one. And it never opened until you pressed the button at least twice. That morning, I jabbed the call button, and as expected, nothing happened. I sighed, pressed it again, and the door slid open with a slow metallic groan. No one was inside. The mirror on the back wall was slightly scratched, almost fogged up, like someone had been breathing on it just seconds before. I stepped in. The panel lights flickered briefly before stabilizing. I pressed 14 and leaned back against the wall, scrolling through my phone. The elevator hummed to life and began moving. 2, 3, 4. Then it stopped. No sound, no jolt, just silence. I looked up. The floor indicator had gone dark. I pressed the emergency button. Nothing. I tried reopening the doors. Still nothing. Then the elevator suddenly lurched downward, not violently, but like a slow drop in a dream. The sensation made my stomach twist. The indicator screen flickered back on, but instead of numbers, strange symbols flashed across it, circles, slashes, a triangle with a line through it. Then the doors opened. It wasn't the 14th floor. It wasn't any floor I recognized. The hallway beyond was dimly lit with a faint reddish hue, like the light was filtering through old faded curtains. The carpet was damp, the wallpaper peeling in long strips. I stepped out instinctively, maybe expecting to see someone, maybe thinking I had reached a maintenance level. But the moment my foot touched the floor outside the elevator, a deep hum filled the air, low, like a growl buried under concrete. It came from everywhere and nowhere. I turned to step back into the elevator, but the doors had already closed. The button panel outside didn't work. It didn't even have numbers. Just a blank steel plate where they should have been. I stood there, frozen, trying to convince myself this was some renovation flaw, some forgotten part of the building. Maybe the elevator had malfunctioned. That's all, but the air smelled strange, like burnt hair and something metallic. I could hear faint whispers down the corridor, though I couldn't make out any words. There was movement at the far end. A figure? A shadow? I wasn't sure. But it didn't walk. It glided, like a projection on glass, flickering in and out of visibility. I backed up against the elevator door, heart pounding, fingers fumbling for a seam, a button, anything. The whispering grew louder, not angry, but insistent, urgent. I could feel something pressing in on me, like the air itself had weight. I don't know how long I stood there before I realized something else was wrong. My phone. The screen was still on, but the time wasn't moving. 9:47 a.m. The same as when I entered the elevator. Battery full, but frozen. That's when I noticed my reflection in a cracked mirror hanging on the wall across the hall. It was me, but not quite. The reflection blinked before I did. And then it smiled. I didn't know it then, but I hadn't just arrived on the wrong floor. I had arrived somewhere else entirely. Somewhere I was never meant to be. I stood frozen, the elevator doors long since shut behind me. The silence in this place wasn't empty. It was heavy, like it was waiting for something. The red-tinted hallway stretched on in both directions, dim and uneven, with only a few flickering lights overhead. I told myself this had to be a restricted maintenance floor. That would explain the state of it: the peeling wallpaper, the water-stained carpet, the buzzing of electricity in the walls. But even as I tried to rationalize, every fiber in my body screamed that something was terribly wrong. I walked a few steps forward, calling out softly, "Hello? Is anyone here?" My voice sounded distant, as if the walls were absorbing it. I turned back to the elevator. No number panel, no way to call it back. Just cold metal that reflected a stretched and distorted version of me. I kept moving down the hallway, carefully, the air around me still humming that low sound I couldn't place. It wasn't mechanical. It felt alive, like the building was breathing. Doors lined the hallway, identical, unmarked. I tried one at random, locked, the next, open. But the room behind it was empty, save for an old wooden chair facing the wall. I stepped in slowly. The light overhead flickered violently, casting jerky shadows. The hum grew louder the deeper I walked into the room. And then, without warning, it cut to silence. That's when I heard it. Footsteps in the hallway behind me. Slow, deliberate. I spun around, heart pounding. But there was no one. I waited, holding my breath. Nothing. I took a cautious step back, out into the hallway. At the far end, something had changed. The hallway didn't seem to end anymore. Where before, I had seen a wall. Now there was only darkness stretching beyond. Like the corridor had grown longer while I wasn't looking. I turned to retrace my steps toward the elevator, but now the hallway behind me looked completely different. The wallpaper was darker. The lights were dimmer. There was a faint mark on the wall. A long black smear, like something had been dragged across it. I was trapped, somewhere that kept shifting when I wasn't looking. Somewhere that was watching me. A sudden metallic clang echoed down the hallway, making me jump. It sounded like something slamming shut, maybe a door, maybe something worse. I started walking faster, trying doors, banging on them, shouting for help. No response. Every door either wouldn't budge or led to another empty room that looked like no one had entered it in decades. Then I saw the mirror again. Not the same one from before. This one was mounted on the hallway wall. Large, cracked, and covered in grime. But in its reflection, I wasn't alone. Behind me, standing silently, at the end of the corridor, was a figure. I turned instantly. Nothing there. I looked back at the mirror. The figure was closer. It was tall, thin, but entirely shrouded in black. No face, no features, just a silhouette that seemed to ripple slightly, like heat over asphalt. Its arms hung too long, fingers barely moving. I blinked, and in that split second, it was even closer. I ran. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. I just ran, turning corners, sprinting past doors, until I found a stairwell. It looked rusted and ancient, like it hadn't been used in years. I yanked the door open and bolted down, taking steps two at a time. My breath came in sharp gasps, echoing off the narrow concrete walls. The lights in the stairwell began shutting off, one by one, top to bottom, chasing me with darkness. I reached the next floor and pushed through the door. It was the same hallway, same peeling wallpaper, same dripping pipe, same damn mirror. Except now my reflection didn't move at all. It just stared. I backed away slowly, trying to make sense of it, but my own image stayed frozen. Then it smiled, broad and unnatural. My stomach dropped. My reflection wasn't me anymore. Its eyes turned pitch black, and its mouth kept stretching, too wide, too long. I ran again. Eventually, I found another elevator, not the one I had entered. This one was older, buttons worn down, scratched metal walls. I jabbed the call button, praying it would open. It did. I stepped in, turned around to face the hallway, and saw the figure standing there. Again, closer than ever, just beyond the threshold. As the doors slowly slid shut, it lifted its head. I still couldn't see a face, but I could feel it looking at me. The doors closed. The elevator began to rise, and I finally let myself breathe until I looked at the panel. There was no 14, no numbers at all, just one word glowing in red. Return. The elevator moved, but it wasn't smooth like before. It groaned and trembled, as if struggling to lift something it wasn't built to carry. The light overhead flickered steadily now, casting strange, rhythmic shadows across the scratched walls. My heart thudded in time with every creak, every jolt. Then the movement stopped. A soft chime rang, familiar, yet off somehow. The door slid open with a slow hiss. I stepped out cautiously, half expecting to find another warped hallway or twisted version of reality. But no, it was the office lobby. The one I knew, bright lights, clean tile floors, people walking past, heads down in their phones or carrying coffee cups. Everything looked normal. But I didn't feel normal. I glanced around. The receptionist glanced up and gave me a polite smile. The security guard at the entrance barely looked at me. I checked my phone. It was 9:48 a.m. Just 1 minute had passed since I entered the elevator. Impossible. I slowly walked to the front desk. My voice came out hoarse. "Excuse me. Did anything weird just happen with the elevators?" The receptionist blinked. "No, not that I know of. Why?" I hesitated. How could I explain what I had seen, what I had felt? Just, never mind. I turned and headed toward the elevators again, wanting, no, needing, to prove to myself that it had all been in my head. Maybe I'd blacked out. Maybe it was a vivid hallucination. But when I looked toward the far left elevator, the one I had entered earlier, I froze. It wasn't there. There were only 3 elevators in the lobby, not 4. I asked the security guard casually, "Wasn't there a 4th elevator over there?" He frowned. "Nope, just the 3. Always been 3. Why?" I felt cold, like something had slipped through the cracks of reality and followed me back. I stepped away, heart racing again. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that dark hallway, that shadowy figure, my own smiling reflection. Days passed, then weeks. I tried to ignore it, tried to move on. But strange things kept happening. My phone would freeze at 9:47 a.m. My reflection would lag behind, just slightly. And sometimes, in dreams, I was back there, wandering that endless hallway. Doors opening to reveal nothing but static noise and flickering lights. One night, I woke up to find muddy footprints on my apartment floor, leading from my bedroom to the bathroom mirror. I live alone. Now I avoid elevators altogether. I take the stairs, even if it's 20 floors. I can't risk it, because I know now it wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a dream. It was real. And whatever place I stumbled into, whatever entity I saw, I don't think it ever let me go. And some nights, I swear, I hear a low hum behind the walls, like the elevator's still waiting to take me back.